Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. That's a quote from Charles R. Swindoll, telling you to take on the second half of this year with a winning attitude. This is your second chance to get it right and stay on track to achieve those goals. Hi there, everyone. I'm Adrian Atkinson, and it's my pleasure to take you through the pages of this first Wednesday edition of Jamaica Magazine in June. Join us today as we share tips on how to prepare for the hurricane season, plus a look at Jamaica's food safety standards. We'll tell you more after this quick break. Stay with us.
The Island Traffic Authority collaborates with the Jamaica Constabulary Force to conduct road spot checks to determine if vehicles are compliant with the certificate of fitness issued. Spot checks include checking tires, horns, body condition of vehicles, as well as vehicle lights, which are checked at dusk and dawn. The Island Traffic Authority, an entity for road safety good.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, June 7, 2023. A joint select committee of Parliament is to be established to review the job descriptions and code of conduct for ministers and members of Parliament. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made the disclosure during a statement to the House of Representatives on June 6.
The process is well advanced. We have consulted with the opposition. We have so far shared one document with them. And others will follow shortly. So I'm giving notice to the House that next week we will name the committee and begin the full review of both the job descriptions and the code of conduct.
The Prime Minister says it is hoped that these job descriptions can become the framework against which the execution of MPs' duties can be judged by the public. He says the Parliamentary Joint Select Committee will also be tasked with articulating an accountability framework. Leader of the opposition, Mark Golding, says the opposition intends to engage constructively in this process.
We are in favor of anything that would entrench integrity in the life of parliamentarians, clarity around what our roles are so the wider society understands and can hold us accountable for what we do or don't do.
Meanwhile, the ministers with responsibility for information and justice are asserting that they have not been presented with a leadership code of conduct from the Integrity Commission and reject claims they have refused to sign such a document. The ministers addressed the matter during this morning's post-cabinet media briefing at Jamaica House. For his part, Minister Robert Morgan challenged claims that he was confusing the public during a previous response to a question from the media as to whether the Prime Minister or any of his cabinet ministers had signed the Commission's Leadership Code of Conduct.
I assert that nothing I said is erroneous, as up to this moment at 8:15 on Wednesday, June 7, no code of conduct has been presented to me, nor have I been consulted on a code of conduct.
Justice Minister Delroy Chucks similarly insists that he has not seen the Integrity Commission's Leadership Code of Conduct, even as he questions if such a document should rightly be coming from that body.
I think the Integrity Commission is going beyond what its jurisdiction is. It is an anti-corruption agency. But it is now making itself to be an oversight body for good governance, for accountability. That's the Auditor General's jurisdiction. What it amounts to leadership, good leadership, that's not the work, with due respect, of the Integrity Commission. We want the Integrity Commission to expose corruption in this country.
Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs Marlene Malahoo Fort says Jamaica's push to become a republic is an internal country matter that should not be impacted by external factors. The minister made that assertion on Wednesday as she delivered her sectoral debate presentation in the House of Representatives. Mrs. Malahoo Fort urged stakeholders to keep sharp focus on the work to be done, despite the need for greater accountability from all parts of government.
I do not want us to get rid of the issue of reforming our constitution. An important function of a constitution is to give protection against governmental misbehavior. Reforming the Constitution of Jamaica is much bigger than me or the Constitutional Reform Committee.
And finally, Minister of Labour and Social Security Pernell Charles Jr. has ordered that a series of actions be taken to address ongoing concerns raised by farm workers in Ontario, Canada. Among other things, the minister has requested a comprehensive report from the Chief Liaison Officer regarding existing concerns and an update of general activities of the Jamaica Central Labour Organization, JCLO.
The Management Committee, chaired by Permanent Secretary Robert Risden, will review the protocols, guidelines, and activities relating to the delivery of service to our farm workers and provide recommendations for improvement where necessary.
The minister says meetings will be held with the employers, liaison officers, and farm workers, starting with the Canadian liaison officers tomorrow morning. A meeting and review session will also be held with the fact-finding team. In addition, the ministry is to highlight previously established communication channels for farm workers and identify additional platforms for them to freely communicate issues and complaints without fear of victimization. Farm workers are being encouraged to utilize the established toll-free lines to contact the ministry directly, as well as to report breaches of employment to Service Canada, Jamaica's partner in the program.
The Ministry of Labour and Social Security is reaffirming its commitment to ensuring that the rights of our farm workers are not infringed and that they are provided with the living environments and the working conditions that meet the best standards as established by our partners, the Canadian authorities. Following all of these meetings with stakeholders and based on the input that I receive, we will be making further determinations to implement additional protocols and guidelines to protect the integrity of our farm work program.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Time they reach the next part, I show them cut it. Talking about that, listen to this. Pen sends a message. Disaster do happens. Be prepared. The municipal corporation reminds us of hurricane, earthquake, flooding, you name it, and preparedness.
Mommy, we really have to take this thing seriously.
Mommy, where's the emergency shelters?
Samir.
Primary school, churches, community centers. Know your nearest emergency shelter. Protect your family during any natural disaster. Be prepared. Visit the ODPEM website at odpem.org.jm to find the shelter listing for your parish. Know your emergency shelters.
Jamaica's economic performance is continuing its strong and steady pace with an estimated 2.7% growth for the January to March quarter. We now take you through plans for a vital transport sector that will help to sustain Jamaica's economic prospects. Take a look.
It's an operation focused on modernization and expansion strategies to mobilize the efficiency of Jamaica's transport sector.
The public transport sector is a critical aspect of our economy, and this government continues to work to reposition this sector to ensure reform and sustainability.
70 new Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC buses are to be delivered this fiscal year. They include 45 diesel, 5 electric, and 20 CNG fueled units. This will significantly boost the JUTC fleet and increase daily bus runout. Other modernization plans for the JUTC include a new online portal for charter and sub-franchise license applications, procurement of a cashless fare collection system, a technology-based solution to detect, locate, and track fuel theft, and partnership with the Hart NSTA Trust for 44 employees to receive motor vehicle mechanics training. To implement some of the digital upgrades, the Transport Authority Act and regulations will be amended. Other major initiatives for the Transport Authority include implementation of an island-wide camera network infrastructure to improve monitoring in the transport sector, temporary relocation of the Transport Authority Lake Spend Pound facility to Water Lane in Kingston, implementation of the Transport Authority Digital Transformation Project, and launch of an electronic ticketing system to replace written summons. The technology revolution continues over at the Island Traffic Authority ITA, with plans to install the new integrated motor vehicle and driver's license system. Additional technology such as headlight aimers, tint and decibel meters, and modern crash data retrieval kits are being sourced to support the execution of the Road Traffic Act and regulations. The ITA is also moving to roll out online tests for road code, driving, and fitness across all examination depots this year. On the tracks, the revival of rail service continues for this fiscal year. The Jamaica Railway Corporation, JRC, will execute major opportunities in freight and commuter transport to increase revenue. An agreement between the JRC and the Mineral Agency for Retail and Logistics Limited, MARL, will allow for the transportation of aggregates along the Old Harbour to Linstead Rail and Bog Walk to Port Esquivel for export.
This is expected to ensure consistent revenue for the JRC by utilizing the approximately 30 miles of operating track within St. Catherine. The total aggregate to be moved is projected to be approximately 1 million tons per year, resulting in potential revenue of over Jamaican $480 million per annum.
Other railway service expansion planned for 2023 include the establishment of a tourist train service from Montego Bay to Appleton. Commuter rail service will be expanded to transport over 5,000 workers daily in Angel, St. Catherine to a business process outsourcing BPO investment.
It is also to be noted that freight along the Spanish Town and Linstead rail section is high on the agenda for this fiscal year. Among the AAJ, MBJ Airports Limited and PACAL, there's a committed capital expenditure of over $100 million to be executed over the period 2023 to 2026. $46 million is slated to be spent in this financial year.
At the Sangster International Airport, major works include the continuation of the MBJ Phase 3 runway extension project, budgeted at $70 million. Runway pavement improvements at the Norman Manley International Airport, costing $4.5 million, are to be implemented in 2023. A 5-megawatt solar power project costing $7.8 million will also be installed to provide 75% of the runway's energy needs. 15 additional automated border control kiosks are being procured through the Airport Improvement Fund to reduce congestion at the Sangster International Airport. To further advance aviation safety, the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, JCAA, will receive more upgrades in the fiscal year to improve its communication and surveillance systems. These include a ground-based automatic dependent surveillance broadcast, and a low-level wind shear alert system to improve accurate and reliable surveillance in local weather conditions.
The Maritime Authority of Jamaica has been taking steps to position Jamaica as a shipping center.
Jamaica's maritime space now provides liquid natural gas (LNG) bunkering service to refuel ships. This is expected to expand our shipping competitiveness to become an LNG bunkering hub.
A floating dry dock, which will be used to repair mainly commercial vessels, including container ships, bulk carriers, and tankers, will arrive in Jamaica by the end of this year.
Jamaica will also participate in re-elections to the International Maritime Organization, IMO, the agency responsible for regulating safety and standards in the shipping industry. The government remains committed to creating a reliable and sustainable transport sector, one that is vital to stimulating Jamaica's economic pursuit.
June marks the start of the hurricane season, and we want to help you stay prepared with a proper emergency plan. In this next feature, we take you through all the information you need for one critical aspect of disaster preparedness. Watch this.
It doesn't always have to be a hurricane. A disaster can strike at any time, natural or man-made, and you may not be thinking about a shelter. But shelters are a critical part of the government's disaster plan to ensure the safety of citizens in the event of a natural or man-made catastrophe. But let's rewind a little. Do you know the nearest shelter in your community?
We use schools as shelters, community centers, churches. All of these are utilized for the purpose of assisting persons that would need accommodation in times of emergencies. And so that is the role of the shelter. In terms of the number of shelters that we have, it could be in the region over 900, about 900 shelters that we have across Jamaica.
We always grab our phones when we're in trouble. And this time we are searching for the nearest emergency shelter on the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management ODPEM website. Select the Shelters tab, choose your parish, then download the listing to see all available shelters in or near your community. You can also browse the interactive map and click on the red dots to identify the shelters. ODPEM also updates its website with the new shelter listings once the annual inspections are completed.
The reason for this is because sometimes some schools can be removed from the listing, and so we would need to, of course, have that information properly and well communicated for persons to be able to know what to do when it is time to go to a shelter. Disaster shelters are activated in two ways. They're done nationally and they're done at the parish level, parish or community specific, for parish or community specific impacts. Now, large-scale hurricanes, for example, when we have lead time, so sometimes when we're tracking these storms and we have lead time 2 or 3 days, then the shelter managers are activated, right, alerted through the parish mechanism. And so they are on standby to open the shelters. So informing the public, that is done through the formal mechanism of press releases that are sent to media houses to let, of course, persons know that shelters are activated and persons should, of course, go to their nearest shelter. The ODPEM also passes information about shelter activation through our various other social media handles, the Facebook and Twitter and all of the others. And of course, where communities are generally impacted all the time, these persons know their shelters, they know their shelter managers, and so, the information is kind of fluid.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosemary Livingston.
Good afternoon, Ms. Livingston. I'm Chevelle.
I'm here to tell you, Chevelle, the things you should take to the shelter and what you should not take. Okay? You can carry stuff like tin sardine, tin mackerel. You can have a little lemonade drinks, oats, and your biscuit, and your lasco, and your wipes, your clothes. Make sure you come with your sanitary napkin.
Do I have to put the clothes in a plastic bag?
Yes, in case of there is rain, you have them in the plastic bags. You come with your medication. And if you have children, you carry the medication. So you plastic them. What you should not take to the shelter: no knife, no cigarettes, no pets, and no bad behavior.
Okay, that is it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
The COVID-19 pandemic shifted emergency shelter operations with an added focus on keeping persons safe from transmissible diseases. Shelter managers are trained to observe COVID-19 protocols, and this includes having an isolation area. The safety of every emergency shelter is paramount, and this means that shelter rules must be followed.
This government, since 2016, have made arrangements that once the shelters are occupied, we will provide food supplies for persons within the shelters. So the rules that are laid out are clear. It is written all over the board. You see it. Shelter rules.
Emergency shelters are also being retrofitted to provide better mobility for disabled persons. Shelter managers across all parishes are trained each year and provided with refresher trainings in an ongoing program. According to the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, IFRC, disaster preparedness isn't just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do.
Given our realities, some communities are vulnerable, and so the shelters would definitely not be in such a vulnerable location. And so where those cases exist, there is an arrangement at the municipal corporation level where the vulnerable population is actually transported to these shelters.
How much do you know about the work of the Food Storage and Prevention of Infestation Division? Well, we are celebrating World Food Safety Day under the theme, Food Standards Save Lives. It's a good time to learn how you can help to adopt food safety practices. Find out about this government's division's work to regulate food standards in Jamaica.
The Food Storage and Prevention of Infestation Division is mandated to ensure the wholesomeness of food entering commerce. So it's a division that is geared towards food safety. And to do that, we have an inspectorate unit, that is our frontline unit, that would go to the various points of entry, to anywhere that stores food. So we have inspectors stationed at the ports of entry, at supermarkets, warehouses. We check containers. Inspectors are almost anywhere where food is stored.
The Food Storage and Prevention of Infestation Division has been accredited to the ISO 17020 standard, which certifies their competence in doing food and field inspection in premises, containers, and on ships.
We also do breeding for schools and universities. So yes, we do that with the rats. We actually do trapping as well. We go out into the field and we do trapping. So at various locations, we'll take some designated rat traps and we go out and we would trap rats and we breed them in-house.
The division also comprises of a rodent biology and control unit where they conduct efficacy testing to see how effective rodenticides are on the rats.
There are some myths floating around with rats and how to keep rats away. And one of the myths is that you have to spice up the poison for them to eat it and to die, which isn't really so. It's best not to add things like gravy or other foodstuff to the poison. What you want the rat to do is to eat as much of the poison as possible.
Another myth is that by using select rodenticides, you will not be able to smell the rat once it dies.
The smell of the rat has to do with really how the time at which it dies and how far it is from where you thought it died. Another myth is that the rats can't climb on wires. Some of us would really see that, they can climb on wires. You can see them on utility wires. Another myth is that if a rat bites your fruit, for example a mango, you can cut off that bitten portion and eat the rest. No, it's best to discard it and best not to eat it, because if the rat has eaten part of it, they could mess on the rest of the fruit, so you wouldn't want that. So if you have a fruit that is bitten by rats, best to discard it.
In addition to the Rodent Biology and Control Unit, the Food Storage and Prevention of Infestation Division also has other testing laboratories such as the Pesticide, Residue and Microtoxin Unit, a Microbiology Unit, and an Entomology Unit. For more information on the Food Storage and Prevention of Infestation Division, an entity under the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, visit or call them at their offices at 15 Gordon Road in Kingston or 30 to 34 Market Street, Montego Bay, St. James.
This is where we leave you for another exciting edition of Jamaica Magazine. Be sure to find more enriching content like this on our website, jis.gov.jm. Also, don't forget, we would love to hear your feedback on today's show or any of our programs. So, connect with us via email, jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Walk good.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.